you can just do a little bit of everything. That way the career lasts longer and you don't get pigeonholed into just doing one thing.
Yeah, that's a great lesson for anybody in any career, though. Like, even if you're an entrepreneur, you know, some people rely on that one thing they're great at, which is good. It's a gift or whatever. But at some point, you're going to have to evolve, pivot, have different skills to persuade different people. That's something enough people don't do. Are you working on your game? Are you working on your persuasion, or if you're closing, or your presentation skills, your people skills? You know, not enough people are improved, especially if they have a little bit of success.
Yes.
Failure causes all of us to want to improve, right? But success is a killer sometimes, because it makes us think we got it wired. And that's the key to longevity, is you didn't act like you were successful, right? You continue to act like you weren't to get better. True?
Absolutely. Like I said, versatility has equaled the key to longevity. It was like, listen, you can only be the hot chick for so long. Then studios are going to go looking for the next hot chick with, you know, it just, you know, it's a thing that rotates. So I figured out in my career how to go to different chapters, how to be the hot chick, then how to be like the leader, how to play a good mom, how to be a good producer. Now I'm directing. And then business wise, you know, I learned with the Vivica Fox hair collection, which when I started that 10 years ago, people laughed at me. I'll never forget that. They're like, when the check stopped coming in, now she's selling hair.
Right.
Not having no idea that me and my business partner had did our homework and found out the business in the hair business, that it's $1 billion a year franchise, and African-American women buy a lot of that hair.
Yeah.
So, and I know I had spent a whole bunch on weaves and wigs and everything. So I said, let me get a piece of that pie back. And now the Vivica Fox hair collection is celebrating 10 years being successful in the hair trade.
Yeah, that makes you an incredibly legitimate businesswoman if you go a decade at anything in business.
Agreed.
You know, I looked you up. It was interesting because I want to know what like the magic thing was. Everybody has a little magic thing. And I looked at I think it was your mother was a pharmaceutical tech and your dad was a private school administrator, right? Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Worked in the school system. Because
I want to know what makes somebody. And there's little things about you that I've watched over the years, even more than most actresses. And people are hearing it. By the way, she said earlier, you know, she used to be the hot chick. I say this respectfully. She's gorgeous. I say this as a happily married dude, but she's still the hot chick. But because a lot of folks are listening to this on audio. Some are on YouTube, but I want to make sure they go to YouTube, and I'll prove it to you. Click the link on YouTube and you'll see it. But I want to ask you about, I have like only 4 or 5 gifts in my life. One of them, though, that I've worked hard on is my voice, is my ability to communicate clearly, articulate my words clearly. That's something you really do well. And I'm wondering, was that something your parents worked on? Like my dad had like kind of a deep voice and worked on me speaking deeper, worked on me. Hey, finish your sentence, finish your word. Like being able to articulate and speak clearly influences people, right? Regardless of your career. You do that like exceptionally well. Was that like bred into you as a child by your parents, emphasized, or just like it's just a natural thing you have?
No, that it's something that I've definitely worked on. You know, I was a host of a lot of award shows, and then I'll never forget, I did have one job as an actress, and it was for it was kind of like a medical drama, and that was the first time that someone ever had said, you're not saying your G's, you're not saying fishing, or you're not saying it. I wasn't finishing off. I had a little hood in me, so I was, you know, and I'll be like, but you know what I mean. But we're doing a television show, and you're playing a doctor, and you need to speak articulately. And I was like, gotcha. And I didn't even realize that I wasn't finishing my words. So that was the first thing. So then when I started hosting a lot of award shows, and then I had my own talk show called Face the Truth, and I had to deliver a lot of dialogue that was, you know, you have sponsors and things like that they want to hear their ads or whatever spoken clearly. And then I also did a lot of voiceover work. I was a voice of Cadillac for many years. And then I did done animation. I did Scooby-Doo. So I could hear my voice. And can I tell you, I just was in Vegas over the weekend celebrating a friend's birthday. And I kind of, you know, had a little bit of a different do, my braids here. But the moment I started to speak, people would go, I knew that was Vivica Fox. You know, I knew that was you. Yes. You don't even realize that people now, especially listening audio, how many times people hear your voice on a commercial or on a trailer or, you know, something like that. And they go, and there's a connection with the voice.
Yeah. So the reason that I bring it up, everybody that's listening or watching, like the first 2 things really I've covered there is her energy and her ability to articulate her thoughts. because these are huge secret keys in every walk of life. You're a better mother or father if you can bring an energy to your family and articulate your thoughts correctly. And by the way, everybody knows this who watches my show. I'm not talking about clearly saying something like if you were born with an accent or you come from somewhere and there's a dialect. That's absolutely wonderful in life. You want to have those things, but it's finishing your thoughts. It's being cognizant of your ability to communicate with people. Listen, more and more in the world, information's free, everybody. You can Google lots of info. Info doesn't separate you. It's your ability to transfer it. That's the key. And this woman is one of the best in the world. So I want to say, we'll go into your show in a minute because I want to ask you about that too. But you got a chance to work with Patti LaBelle when you were young. That's an icon, right? Like one of the great icons. I'm curious, did she make any impact on you, particularly any influence on you other than, wow, this is Patti LaBelle? What did you learn from her?
Oh my gosh, good cooking and good fashion sense. I remember Patty would always be in her trailer and she would cook us good food. She would always believe like, hey, baby, come. I want to make sure you got a good food and you're nourished and all that good stuff. And she'd cook, now that's why we got patty pies. Another thing I learned from that one about business too, outside of just being a singer. How to brand yourself. And then fashion. I'll never forget one time, they'll say sometimes, oh, your shoes don't matter. You don't really see them. And I walked in with these shoes and she hated them. And she liked my dress and the cute little hat I had on. And she walked up, she said, baby, who put them shoes on you? And I said, oh, they said it's not going to really matter. She goes, I see them. I noticed they weren't cute. And from that point forward, I always make sure that my outfits are complete and I have on some good shoes.
I love that. That's like these little lessons you learn from legends, right? Like little lessons. I've had the good fortune of just, over my life getting to coach or work with people. And some of them are sort of legendary people. And people say, what do you learn from them? They'd be surprised at these subtle little things that you've learned from them that like you carry forever because they said it. Because it was them that said it.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it was them, right? Someone else says, you're like, yeah, whatever. But it's Patti LaBelle, like, okay, I'm wearing some good shoes from now on, right?
Oh, I better. Oh, when I show up, whenever I do see her, I make sure that my look is complete from head to toe. Because she taught me a love for diamonds too.
A love for diamonds. And the other thing you have in common with her too is that because you're both known for this of being really nice, good people. And that's what's one of the other career things that last in careers is like, when you're in competitive businesses, being a good human, treating other people really well, that's like making deposits in the bank account of longevity because there's the law of reciprocity in life, right? Things come back to you. And as well as I do, there's a lot of people in your industry that don't always adhere to that standard.
They sure don't. And and you know what? I also learned, I remember when I met Bill Clinton, how he gave me such direct eye contact. And he's like, a pleasure to meet you. It takes just a moment to be nice, to make someone feels that this may be the only time in their life that they see you in person and they've supported your career and went to see your movies, bought your products and stuff. To take a moment to take a picture and say, thank you, appreciate the support goes a long way.
Yeah, I think they call that charisma sometimes, and Clinton had a ton of that, or has a ton of that, right?
Still,
yeah, I've had the fortune of getting to meet him a couple times too. He's a presence, but one of the reasons he's a presence is no matter what he's doing, he's present with you for those moments. You feel like you're the most important person in the world. So speaking of your movies, Independence Day, that's when I watch it. I was like, wow, this woman has stepped into her own, right? Like that was a big deal. But Set It Off, I thought, I don't know if I'm wondering if you were aware of it. Guys, if you've never seen Set It Off, do yourself a favor and go watch this movie. Because I think it's not only a great movie, and Vivica's not only incredible in it, but there's some real cultural and societal stuff kind of embedded in that movie that is more well-known now than it was then. So, in the movie, I won't give it all away, but, she's basically working in a bank. She shouldn't get fired. She does for some crap, some total BS reasons. She's going to be a janitor. Then they decide to go rob a bank. It's like an awesome movie. But were you aware when you were doing this? Like, this has some social impact to it. Like, some of the issues in that movie, the subtle issues, wasn't just a great movie, but like, there's a lot of stuff. You go watch that movie now. We're talking about those things a lot more now than we were then, some of those issues. Did you have any grasp of it then at all? I was just curious.
To be honest with you, no, it was the director. I will give all kudos to the director, F. Gary Gray, because we were tossing out papers every day from the script. And he's like, this movie has to make sense. Why would 4 women go and rob a bank? I want to show the relationships, how they're connected with each other, how your backs were pushed against the wall, and you felt like this was your only way out. So he wanted to make sure that the story made sense. that here I was unjustly fired, and it's the association with the guy, from the hood, then she still got her girls, and each one went through an experience that made them bond together. And like, you know what? We the system is jacking us over. We're gonna take a piece of the system back and do it our own way. It wasn't a great choice, but it definitely made a wonderful film. But I did feel something special when we were filming it. Absolutely. Working with Latifah, Jada Pinkett Smith, Kimberly Elise, the awesome director F. Gary Gray. I knew it was something special. And at the premiere, people laughed, cried, cheer. I was like, we got a hit. And it's a classic.
Who was your acting coach? Did Will Smith work with you as an acting coach for a while? Is that true?
No, it was just for that movie, Set It Off. We were filming Independence Day. And I told him, I was kind of looking at something on the side. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, hey, I'm going to audition for Jada's, at the time they were dating.
Yeah.
And he was like, yo, let me help you out, V. Okay. I was like, okay. How often does Will Smith say, I want to coach you? So we went in because they made me audition for two characters. They made me audition for TT because at the time, Rosie Perez was supposed to have been my character's Frankie, because, they do that in studios. They try to match up actors. Sure. And so we were reading it and he's like, TT, not really you. Frankie, when we did, he's like, when you go in there, give them that energy. Like, go in there and I want you to take this role, Vivica. Like, don't just, take it. And that extra encouragement. And I remember going into the audition with F. Gary Gray, and I did TT and he went, okay. And then I did Frankie and he went, wow, I like that. Yeah. And he took me out afterwards and he was very honest. He didn't make me audition again. He says, if Rosie Perez falls out, this is your role. And I got it.
No way she fell out. That's how you got that.
Yeah. But I did audition. Yeah.
But he did work with you a little bit, because I read that. I'm like, that's pretty fascinating. He worked with you on a movie that Jada was in. I just think that's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and he came to the set, and when we were doing Independence Day, Jada, we were in Utah, came there. So it was a good connection. And Jada and I had worked, had Jada and I worked together? No, I did Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with Will before. So it was just ironic. I played Jazzy Jeff's, I was like the date from hell. I was his sister, and I just gave Will the hardest time. That's another classic episode as well too. So we had worked together before. And the quick story, the first choice wasn't available. My first day of filming, because I had to audition 6 times, called and said, because she was in a series that they couldn't work out her schedule, and then they did. And they told me at the premiere, they were like, did you know your first day of filming that if you weren't good, we were going to fire you?
No way.
I was like, the director told me this. He says, yeah, the girl that we wanted for first choice.
No way.
Yeah. So it goes to show you to show up and be present, and always, especially if you get an opportunity, never take it for granted. How big or how small, be professional, show up on time, be ready, know your lines, because Independence Day literally changed my life.
Right.
The movie almost 25 years ago made $800 million. And my phone started ringing off the hook. Yeah. It led to movie after movie after movie.
Sometimes the best ability is availability, right?
That's right.
Just be available. And then the other thing too is sometimes luck is where preparation meets opportunity. That's exactly what happened with both of those with you. Like, I just love these lessons, because people think sometimes when they see somebody famous or well-known, somehow the lessons that made them successful don't apply to them. And success is principles that are across the board applied. One of them is hustling, which is, what's that mean to you? You named your show this. You're going into season 2. Why'd you name it that? And what is hustling? What does that mean to you? Because that's everyone talks about. You got to hustle. You got to hustle. I got my hustle on. What to you? What does that mean?
For me, it's being persistent. Never taking an opportunity for granted. I got Hustling with Vivica Fox because it's with Stage 29 Productions, which is Dr. Phil's production company. I had a talk show on called Face the Truth. Now I'm going to take you back. I was a guest on Dr. Phil's show like so many times. And he was like, I'm going to figure out something to do with you. We did the talk show, but then at the time it got canceled prematurely because of some stuff was happening in Hollywood. And they said, we're not done with you. We're going to figure out another way to work with you. And next thing you know, they're like, how about your own podcast? I did a talk show with 4 women, and for them to then say, we want to give you your own podcast. So then who knows what this is going to lead to? I may have another talk show again with Dr. Phil, because he's literally, talk show God, and he gives
Sure.
you that touch. And so when they asked me to do this, they're like, if you do a podcast, what would you like to do? I want to celebrate careers. I don't want to look for gossipy or trick people into telling a story that's clickbait. I said, I want to celebrate careers. I want people to know, what's your journey? How did you become who you are? Tell people stories that they never knew behind the scenes. I think that's, more interesting to hear about than me trying to trick you into getting a clickbait for a blog or something like that. That's not what I do.
I love it. What a career you've had. By the way,
what
Dr. Phil's doing for you, what he's kind of doing for Mike Bear a little bit, my buddy Mike.
Yes, I love Mike.
So do I. He's such a good man. And but that's what Oprah did for him. You know, she kind of tapped him on the shoulder, and it's that thing where you pay it forward in life. It's amazing. And entrepreneurs, parents, all of you, whatever you do, you can do that too. I'm curious. You have a big life, like a busy life,
I do.
And there's a lot of pressure, like, just to be on top, not to lose it,
Yes.
You've carried that. You had to have carried that. And as an African-American woman in Hollywood, the opportunities are limited, right? So I think the pressure's got to even be greater. You can't make a mistake, right? Like, does it ever just weigh on you, just being you, having this life? And secondly, is it worth it? Like, if you had to go back and whisper to that young lady on Soul Train, would you tell her it's worth it? I'm curious. Both of those things together.
Absolutely. I've had, like you said, an amazing career through the trials and tribulations, the ups, the downs, the failures, the successes. It's been an amazing ride. And I want to keep on going forward and having a couple of more chapters before I shut this girl down and say, okay, I've done it. But I love what I do. I love what I do. I'm grateful for what I do. I love entertaining. I love, as you said, passing the torch on to others and going into the different chapters. I really love what I do, and it's absolutely worth it. The only part of it that I don't like is that, sometimes when you do want to do things private, that now everybody wants to put a phone in your face or not let you have private moments, but that comes with it. And, I'm the kind that's like really nice. I'll be like, now, baby, I'm gonna give you this picture, but you're gonna leave me alone after that. Okay.
I need to get better at that. Because you know what? It doesn't upset, everybody knows, it's not really that it upsets you. It upsets the other people you're with. They're like, hey, we're trying to have dinner.
Yes,
the other people you're with.
Y'all please leave her alone. Like, I literally was in Vegas and I was like, you guys, I'm going to take this last picture and then that's it. Everybody kind of put a border around me and that's going to be it, because I wanted to laugh with them and have drinks and have a day off, and not be on. I was not trying to show up as Vivica Fox. I just wanted to hang out with some buddies.
So if there's women listening to this, number one, who want to get ahead in their life,
right?
What would your advice be to them? It's obviously different if some are gender, and then it's even more different if you look different and what the majority looks like, whether you're a Latina, you're Asian American, you're African American. Obviously it's different. I don't understand it. I'm a white male. I never lived like that. I don't walk in a room and experience that. I don't have those thoughts when I walk in a room. So, but there's millions of people that are listening to this that do have those thoughts, that do have those concerns. What would you say to them?
I never use my race as a crutch. Be a good woman. Let's start there. Be a good woman with good principles, good work ethic. And I just never use my race as like, well, I'm a sister and y'all better do this for me. But, there is though a rule that if you are, African-American, that you have to work twice as hard. Happens. But I'm a hard worker. So I never tripped on that. So first of all, in our society today, everybody wants to swipe quickly to fame. There are no shortcuts to a career. There's a difference between being famous and a career. And to have a career is built. And it's built with having a good team, having a good work ethic, showing up and being present, and knowing the business that you're in. Like, I think a lot of people, when they come to show business, everybody just thinks, oh, I'm good looking. And because I'm good looking, that means that you're going to hire me. Well, when you get there and you show up for an audition, there's 10 other pretty girls there. Then you go, whoop, okay, what can I do that's going to make me different, to stand out, to get this part? And that's showing up, knowing your lines, looking the part, leaving no room for doubt that they should hire you. I've had a wonderful acting coach that told me that, by the name of Sheila Wills, when I was a young actress. And she was like, Vivica, you show up. I want you to dress, smell, walk, talk, be the part. So when you walk out, the director or the producers go, that's our girl.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. I'm going to jump in and say that because I love that answer. That I think sometimes even when maybe a deck is stacked against you potentially in life, that it's to your disadvantage to be too aware of it, no matter what it is when you walk in, because I think sometimes you might perform differently being too aware of that stuff. And I mean that like I walked in, I had to give a speech a while ago, and I knew the people that were in there was very rare. But when I had to give this speech, I kind of knew they were predisposed not to agree with some of the things I was going to say. It wasn't political at all. It was just a business thing. Okay. But I remember it wasn't one of my best speeches. And the reason that it wasn't was I was it was a legitimate issue when I had to walk in there I was going to have to deal with. It was real. Right. But I think I was so concerned about it that it caused me to perform. It's almost like if you're a hitter in baseball, you know you can't hit a curveball. You're so paranoid about that curveball, you're getting the curveball. Right. And I think to some extent, that happened. And so it's important to be aware. Christine Simmons was on my show. She's become one of my very good friends. She used to run the LA Sparks, African-American woman. I think she's now running the Academy Awards. Do you know Christine?
No, yeah. But I'm a sponsor of the LA Sparks as well too.
She's awesome. And we share our love for tequila. So she sends me great bottles of tequila from time to time. But she did say to me, she said, one thing as an African-American woman that I am aware of is I don't want to mess this up because I don't want the door to close so that someone else doesn't get an opportunity. Exactly. And one of the things you and Latifah and Jada and others have done is you probably weren't aware at the time, but you have Halle Berry, others, you've opened the door for people now. Is that important to you? Or are you just working and hustling? You don't even think about it.
No, I absolutely do. I actually did an interview one time with Pam Grier. I did this show for BET Legends, and we got to interview people that we loved. She's I named my production company, Foxy Brown Productions, and I got to interview her, and she was so kind. I was like in tears the whole time. And she said to me, I said, you were so kind. Thank you. I admire you for a long time. She says, it's what I'm supposed to do, Vivica. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? She goes, someone opened the door for me so that I could pass this torch to you. And I want you to pass the torch to Generation Next or someone else. And I am doing that. I always help out with producing my own movies, now directing my own movies, hosting a comedy special where it's female comedians, where I show up and I lend my name to get folks in the audience so they give these women, excellent exposure. And so, that's all like, you got to have, you can't just take from your community and not give back and think that you're going to be blessed. So
do you work on yourself? Like, are you a reader? Because you've had a lot of personal, I'm coming on your show. You've had a lot of personal development, life improvement type people around you on your show and other people you've interviewed. Is that something, do you work on it? Do you read? Are you constantly reading about, energy or getting better or faith or those kinds of topics? Is that something that is in your universe, so to speak?
I am a reader and then not a reader because I have to read so many scripts. So, but I like, positive affirmations and things like that. But can I take you back to something you just said about, being too aware? As an actor, though, it's different for us. And let me tell you why. If you walk in, and you have to be confident, like they can sense whether or not you know the lines, whether or not you're prepared. So for an audition, it's like you've got to be like in a zone that like when you walk in and there's people, you've got less than 5 minutes to impress to get a job. Yes. So, you know what I mean? Because I've also done speeches and I have to read the room too. And I have to adjust, Yeah.
I think what my point was is that you can't be too aware of outside noise. You have to go in and execute. And that's what I work.
Okay. I misunderstood you then.
Yeah. When I coach entrepreneurs that I know, maybe they're the little company going in to bid against a big company or something like that. And they're like, look, the deck is stacked against me. I'm like, it is stacked against you. That's a fact. But you got to go in there, like you just said, and you got to own it and you got to execute. Yes. And that's what I meant earlier about, listen, there's decks stacked against people in certain industries and certain businesses in life. Being aware of it's very important because you don't want the door to close for somebody else. You better over prepare. You got to be twice as good. All the things we said. But I think when your moment arrives, you got to drop that. You got to execute, just like what you've said. I think we're actually saying something really, really similarly. What about this too? I'm just curious. Has there been luck, timing? In other words, would you have been successful no matter what? Or is there an element to success that's just like, you better always be ready because timing does matter?
Yeah, that was something else. My Sheila Wills, my acting coach back in the day, she's like, stay ready. Stay ready. You never know when your time is going to come up. And if you weren't prepared, the only person that you can blame is yourself. And then going back forward to what you were saying, you're like, how am I who I am? It's because I'm honest with who I am. I own my accomplishments. I own my faults. I think that's the biggest thing with a lot of people, that sometimes they're in denial about their actions. Wow. And how they treat people. And I really try to be a person that if I'm wrong, to apologize, that if I made a mistake, to own that mistake, that, you know, how do I learn from my mistakes? And so I don't have a problem looking in the mirror and talking to Vivica and owning who I am. And that took a long time. But in my 50s, the maturity now that I have, that how do you get certain results? What was your contribution to things not going the way that you thought they were going to go, or that they went just like you want, if not even better?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's going to be an Instagram clip. I can tell you that right now. You know, like when you're watching a football game, they go, "That's going on Sports Center."
Oh,
right
yes.
there,
oh yeah.
That was the Sports Center podcast right there. I'm going to tell you.
Or if someone gets posterized, you're like, "Oh, dude, you just got posterized."
Exactly. Yeah, you dunked on that. So I want stay on that just for a second. I'm curious because we're going to run out of time, and like you can tell, I would talk to you all day. But I'm curious: are you hard on yourself when you perform? When you go back and watch yourself on camera, are you one of those people that's very difficult on yourself so that you do improve, or do you give yourself some grace? Do you enjoy watching yourself? I'm curious.
Combination of both. When I first started acting, I was overly critical. I was looking for everything that I did wrong and said what I did right. So I had to give myself a break. You know, like, okay, people enjoyed it. Stop being so hard on yourself. But, you know, you are critical of yourself because you want to grow as an actor. Yeah. And so I've learned to just listen a little bit more. When I see something, if I like it, congratulate myself, and then let's move forward. How can we grow that then the next time? Like I do these Lifetime movies called So Wrong It's Right. And we're now like on film 33. And the reason why they keep happening is because, you know, I keep making it better. I'm like, okay, next time the fashions can be a little bit better. Okay, let's make sure the hair is more current. I just always try to, every time that I show up to be better and grow. And you know, now I'm a director. So
what an amazing career. Gosh, like it's really remarkable. And by the way, the diversity of the different things that you do, you know, and that's why I say these principles, everybody, don't apply to just acting or just directing or just podcasting or just being an entrepreneur. They apply in life.
Yes.
You seem like, people ask me sometimes, and I'm not equating the two of us by any means, but people will ask me sometimes, you seem very confident. And I've had to really work on my self-confidence. I did not have that when I was young. And I even think it's pretty fragile sometimes now. And people ask me, are you as confident as you seem? And I usually say, probably not. Probably not. And when I watch you, I'm like, this is such a confident woman. Do you go through bouts of not being, of insecurity? Do you struggle with that ever, especially in your career with the criticism that could come or the gaps in between a movie? And if you have ever struggled with it, do you have any hacks or keys you do to get your confidence?
You know, I have a funny saying, make your haters your congratulators, because we seem to be in a business where people love to just rip you apart. And I had to stop I had to know who was trolling or be honest with myself. Did you like the way you looked? Could you have done better? Could you have worked out more? You know what I mean? Just to be honest with myself. But I try to put my best foot forward. I'm a planner. When I go and I do movies or even an appearance, the look is planned literally from head to toe. I learned that from Patti LaBelle, to look good. And because people, if they want to see a movie star, they want to see a movie star. But then I also know when to turn off and just hang out with my godchildren, no makeup, and enjoy life. So it's a delicate balancing act that I think I finally have figured out. And confidence is key,
Yeah. For me, confidence is keeping the promises I make to me. If
Yes.
I consistently do the things I tell myself I'm going to do, I build a reputation with myself where I trust me. And to me, that's self-confidence. And when I meet somebody who's not self-confident, I think maybe they've started a lot of diets they didn't keep. Maybe they said they're going to make a lot of phone calls they didn't make for business. They don't keep these promises. So anyone listen, that's a hack also, in addition to what Vivica said about your self-confidence. Okay, last question.
Okay.
I wish this wasn't over. First off, thank you for being here. First off,
You're
thank
welcome.
you. And everybody, please go check out Vivica's podcast. Go follow her on social media. I think if you go to her Instagram or her show, I think you'll be able to connect with everything that she's doing going forward. But if you could go back to that young lady on Soul Train who probably had big dreams and wanted to do something great with her life, and you could talk to her. There's a lot of people listening to this and watching this coming out of COVID, and maybe